Good morning, Rabbi Sai. Lili nishmas imi merosi, ruspas Mordechai. So, yesterday, I was laid up in bed most of the day. I didn't pick a good day to do that because today's daf is the easy daf, but many, many charts. So Baruch Hashem, I got most of the charts out. I did, however, go get a COVID test. I'll share this with you. I got it in the middle of the night. Negative. So I don't know what to do now. I was excited to have COVID and have kind of a light case. And then I could go and shmooze the ilam. But now I have to be careful still. Okay. But at the COVID place, so we're at Ichad Hatzalah, and at the COVID place, I hear a bacher saying to another guy that he's leaving to England. His name is Lipman. So, of course, I go to him. I said, where are you going? He's like, I'm going to university. Like, what are you going to do about Torah? So I tell him about the daf. He's all excited. And I asked him what yeshiva he goes to. He says, Ashreinu. So he puts me on the phone with the yeshiva. Last night I went to the yeshiva. And it's a small yeshiva, 30 guys. More than half the yeshiva signed up. A bunch of great guys. So very excited. It was Ashgacha Pratis. Here we have my son, Hil Karetzik, 8th grader in Darchi Torah, far away. Made a siyum, Megillah. My wife and I cannot be more proud of him. Tremendous effort, dedication. Despite all the learning, Bekitzer, he got him to learn Megillah again. Me, le Megillah Eli, planted a seed in my mind, he says. It's an awesome way to do Chazara and get hooked. Bekitzer, he showed his commitment. He's at a chasana, learning during a wedding. Here we have some pictures of him learning during a wedding. Who knows, Raveli, how many future Gdolim in Yediyas HaTorah Asma, the time management and goal-achieving leaders in all paths of life are growing up, being nurtured in front of MDY eyes. In the zechus of all your Mesias Nefesh, Maseches Megillah, say the bracha. May you and your children and all of us and our families be zechus to reach greatness and maximize our potential in life. Thank you very much. Eina nachnu speaking lahoydis lecha, b'kavod rab u'b'yedidos zev Karetzik, however you pronounce it. Here we go. Here's the tzaddik at a siyum. Here he is at a chasana. Beautiful stuff. Was noch? Good afternoon. You mentioned recently about the kids noticing everything. Yesterday after lunch, I was telling my wife, it's too late to go to 1:45 mincha, too early to the 2:30 mincha. Trying to figure out my schedule. My 5-year-old daughter pipes up, Tati, you can learn the daf now with Rebelli. Yashakayach, feel good. I was in Lakewood for Shabbos, got my uncle to join the shir. My Gemara already shipped. Simcha Shmuel Solomon. What's noch? Last week, with a few friends, we took a trip to Davenberg Shaila. We stopped over in Warsaw. The Kitzer, he says, he's not a grandchild, but he wanted to show the oilam over there. So he put on his talis and tefillin and daven shachris in the middle of a crowded room. I love it because I did the same thing a number of times in Germany. Usually I'm a little shy to daven in a tzibur, in an airport, but in Germany, for some reason, I felt great about it. Put on my talis, people walking by, the tefillin. We're here, we're not going anywhere. When I was done, I downloaded the WhatsApp version of daf, got on a plane to Budapest, snapped this picture. As I learned the daf, Lili Nishmas, the Gdoshim killed during the Holocaust. This is from Good Kosher Eats. Forgot his name already. Here it is in Warsaw, off the plane. And similar to that, we have ShaulE Finkel. A large group of Netzach Yehuda battalion graduates flew to Poland to visit and see what our nation went through. Of course, we cannot miss a day of the MDY shir. So no matter where it is, on the bus or in the airport, we're watching live. May all Klal Yisrael be zoich to visit the camps and join the shir. I got to go to the camps. I'm a little nervous. I'll be crying nonstop. In pictures, Yishai, Sunray, and Effie Kolach. Mashu kazeh. Here we go. Tzaddikim learning the daf. If you look in the background, you can see an airplane right over here. So they're in the airport learning Torah. Another, not related to the other email, learning in Warsaw, in Warszawa. Oh, this is somebody writing, Simcha Lichter, saying that in Stamford Hill, that's where people don't have any smart devices usually. There are already 20 people signed up to the Siyum. And Toronto is doing a beautiful thing. We have a bunch of Siyumim. Go check out mdysiyum.com. There are like 13, 14 places. I don't know what happened to Austria. Usually Austria is on there somewhere. Be'ezer Hashem. Rabbi said, before we go into the Ilu Nishmos and the sponsors, we only have a few days until Friday. Friday, the brand new Masechta starts. It's going pretty well. We had over 100 sign-ups 2 days ago. Yesterday, midday, when I called up, they said 50. But we still have many hundreds of Gemaras left to give out. So we got to push. I know you were saying to yourself, you want to push, and you're going to do it right after Shir, but then you forgot. So make a note of it. Get your friend. Join mdy.com. Or you could go bulk. You could bring it to your own daughter's Vart if you want. You could be like Peretz Chaim Levin. But he explained it. He said that he attributes the Vart, the whole thing, the whole Simcha to MDY. Well, you don't know. His golden dove. mdycm.com. Yeah, I said that already. Great. Parnas HaChodesh for the Koil Chayim. Yehושע Aryeh Leyb הכהן ben Yonis and Chayim Zechron Levracha. L'Refuah Sididenu Reb ShaulE Baruch Hu ben Malka Freda. Yesterday was official. Today is the Olam. Maseches Megillah, the Davis and Kessler families in zechus for shleima. For Miriam Esther bas Devora. Maseches Megillah sponsored by Shmuly Hecht of 245. Lina neshoma Mordechai Shlomo פינחס Tobia. Ben Avraham Moshe Peretz Neriyar. Avrumie and Sprincy Gross. Another one from them in honor of our two nieces' birthdays, Ricky Steinberg and Miriam Steinberg. David and Racheli Mitnick of Baltimore in honor of the Chassan tonight of Avi Mitnick and Abigail Schumann of Baltimore. May they be zechus to build a bais, never be Yisrael, and give HaKadosh Baruch Hu much nachas. So this is normal for somebody to sponsor somebody else's wedding. It's a beautiful thing. Sruly Bernstein, I'll never forget this name because I remember maybe 2 years ago, all of a sudden, sponsorship from Sruly Bernstein. I'm like, what? The Magid from Lakewood is sponsoring stuff on our shir. But then I realized it's Bernstein with an E. Bernstein. Lilu Nishmas, my grandmother, Esther Bas, Yehושע Mordechai. So I'm familiar with this name. Yishkoyach. ShaulE Wassertheil. Ooh. In honor of his wife's neshoma. Lilu Nishmas. Eko Edno Tzipoira Bas Moshe Menachem Alevi. Tes Tammuz, Tovshin Pei Aleph. Penny Brescher. In honor of Shragi and Noam Goldberg. May they start the daf today. In honor of Shragi and Noam Goldberg. May you start the daf today. And finally we have, listen to this. Oh no, sorry. Esther Levana Bas Nuris. In zechus of my wedding today with Neria Ben Rina. Something like that. May we build a bais nemo b'Yisrael, a house of shalom, bracha, tovia, v'shefa, with a havas Torah and yira shomayim. Got a little choked up there. Chassan and Kala dedicating their own chasana. In the zechus of my wedding today, may we build a bais nemo b'Yisrael. Unbelievable. Okay. Rabbi Zai, here we go. It's an easier daf, believe it or not, but the wording and the back and forth and Parsha Zachar and this and that could get a little confusing maybe, but the actual ideas and everything that we're going to learn is very, very simple. Many, many charts today. Today, we're holding Daf Chavtes. Today's Lamed. What do we have? Lamed. Tomorrow's Amud Aleph. And then Amud Beis is 1 Amud long, the final Daf of the Masechta. We're holding Omer Rabbi Yitzchak Napcha. I don't know, like 12, 14 lines from the bottom. Omer Rabbi Yitzchak Napcha. Rosh Chodesh Adar Shechal Liyos B'Shabbos. If Rosh Chodesh Adar falls out on Shabbos, Moitzin Shalish Teiros. When else do we have that we take out 3 Teiros? On Chanukah. And that's what the Gemara is going to say in a second. So we pull out 3 Sifrei Teiros. V'koyim b'hem echad binyan shel yom. The regular Parshas HaShavua. V'echad shel Rosh Chodesh. And then we lane Rosh Chodesh. V'echad b'chisisa. And we also lane Parshas Shkolim. So let's not forget. Yesterday we were talking about the 4 Parshias. Shkolim, I just added a couple of coins here because it goes in the other chart also. Zachar, Parsha Zachar, Para, HaChodesh. It's 4 weeks in Adar. Each Shabbos we read a portion of these. Shkolim, we said, is to remind Klal Yisrael you have to bring a half a shekel, half a matzah shekel to the Beis HaMikdash so we can buy korbanos with it. So, when Rosh Chodesh Adar falls out on a Shabbos, now we have to add an extra parsha of Rosh Chodesh. So we bring an extra Sefer Torah, we have 3 Sefer Torahs. Ve'omar Rabbi Yitzchak Nafcha, and says another halacha. Rosh Chodesh Teves, Chanukah, is always going to fall out. Rosh Chodesh is always going to fall out on Chanukah, since Chanukah starts on the 25th of Kislev, and Chanukah is 8 days long, so from 25, all you need is 5 days to reach Rosh Chodesh. So you're always going to have Rosh Chodesh. Once in a while, Rosh Chodesh falls out on Shabbos. So Rosh Chodesh Teves Shechal is b'Shabbos. Mivim shalosh Torahs. We bring 3 Sefer Torahs. V'koyim b'mechad b'yoshe yoyim Parshas Shavua. V'echad Rosh Chodesh, and 1 Sefer Torah Rosh Chodesh. V'echad b'Chanukah, and 1 Sefer Torah, the same parshas that we read all 8 days. Utzricha. Now, why does Rabbi Yitzchak Nafcha have to tell us the chiddush both on Purim and Chanukah? Vidmar b'Hav will only talk about Chanukah. B'Okam Rabbi Yitzchak. Maybe Rabbi Yitzchak only said it by Chanukah. Aval b'Hach Kirav Sruly Domar Parshas Shkolim as Karbani Lachmi. According, we had the machlokes yesterday. What is Parshas Shkolim? Remember, Rav Tovi explains that it's the parsha that we read for Rosh Chodesh, because in that parsha we learn about Shkolim. So, if it coincides with Rosh Chodesh, you don't need to take out another Sefer Torah. It's already rolled up to Rosh Chodesh. You're already reading Rosh Chodesh. So according to that shita, you're only reading 2 parshas, Rosh Chodesh and Shkolim. That's it. Parshas Shavua. Says the Gemara, right? So you're doing Shkolim and Parshas Shavua, which Shkolim also includes Rosh Chodesh. So therefore, I have to say, no, we pull out 3 Sefer Torahs and we read Shkolim from Kisisa, not from the parsha of Rosh Chodesh. As Karbani Lachmi. Ubishtei Torah Sagi, it's enough to take out 2 Sefer Torah. Kamash Malon. Okay, the famous question the Gemara always asks. So if so, just say the Chiddush one. Just talk about Purim. And I'll know that you hold that on Purim, before Parshas Shkolim means Kisisa. You take out 3 Torahs. And of course, by Chanukah, you also have to take out 3 Torahs. Why does he have to say the halacha twice? In addition to Chanukah. Says the Gemara, Chada mikla chaver tetmar. You're right. All he ever said was 1 halacha. Halacha by Purim, by Rosh Chodesh Adar. From that, we learned the halacha by Chanukah. Not him. He didn't have to repeat it. It was pasha to him. He said the halacha, you take out 3 Sefer Torahs by Adar, and we learn from there that you take out 3 Sefer Torahs by Tevis. Itmar Rosh Chodesh Tevis Shechal Yis B'chol, or maybe it's Korut lots of Rosh Chodesh V'chad V'Chanukah. Okay, so now you have Rosh Chodesh in the middle of the week, Tevis, and it's Chanukah. Question: what's more important, Chanukah or Rosh Chodesh? What do you guys think? Think about it. What's more important? The Gemara is going to say Rosh Chodesh is more important. Why? Because Rosh Chodesh is Tadir. It's more often. Tadir v'shein Tadir, Tadir kaidam. Says the Gemara, so what do you do? How do you read it? What's more important is Rosh Chodesh. 3 aliyahs from the parsha of Rosh Chodesh. You pull out 2 Sefer Torah. You read 1. 3 aliyahs from 1. V'chad v'Chanukah, and only 1 aliyah, the final one, Chanukah. Rav Dimi Chayfa, Rav Dimi that comes from Chayfa said, the reverse. Chanukah is more important. 3 aliyahs Chanukah, v'chad Rosh Chodesh. Amar Amani, Kivas say the Rabbi Yitzchak Nafcha Mistabra. I understand Rabbi Yitzchak Nafcha. The Tadir v'shein Tadir kaidam. Rosh Chodesh is more important. Tadir. Amar Rabbi Avin, Kivas say the Rabbi Dimi Mistabra. I like Rabbi Dimi. Mi garm l'Revi Yishiyavai. Who causes the 4th aliyah? There's only 3 aliyahs. Who causes it? Rosh Chodesh. Rosh Chodesh by the Mikri. The one that causes, that creates a 4th aliyah, that's the aliyah that you should read. Read the 4th one for Rosh Chodesh. In other words, the first 3 Chanukah. What do we do? A lot of times the Gemara does this. We have a machlokes. So what do you do with the machlokes? Another machlokes how to do with the machlokes. We don't care about Rosh Chodesh. Chanukah is the most important. So what if you get gifts every day? It's not more important than Rosh Chodesh. v'Rosh Chodesh Iker, because of this idea of Tadir v'Sheni Tadir Kaidem, because Rosh Chodesh happens every month, so you do 3 aliyahs from Rosh Chodesh, 1 aliyah from Chanukah. What happens if you only take out 1 Sefer Torah? You take out 1 Sefer Torah and you forget. You think it's Rosh Chodesh, you do 4 aliyahs of Rosh Chodesh. Says the Shulchan Aruch, you don't read Chanukah. From here you see you don't read Chanukah. It's not as important. Now what if you took out 2 Sefer Torahs in the weekday and you read 4 aliyahs by mistake in the first one, but because you have a second Sefer Torah, you continue reading a 5th aliyah on Chanukah, on the weekday, so that you have something for Chanukah. Okay. So, very simple chart over here. This is the day of the week, Shabbos. On Shabbos, the way it works is, first comes Parshas Tetzava, then Parshas Kisisa, then Parshas Vayakel. Here's the problem, not a big problem, a very simple problem. In Parshas Kisisa, the first psukim in Parshas Kisisa is the Parsha of Shkalim. That's what it talks about, Shkalim. So you could see how this creates an issue. Because the biggest issue would be, what do you do when Parshas Shkalim falls out on Parshas Kisisa? It already includes Shkalim. So how do you show that you're reading Shkalim? You're reading Kisisa. That's problem number 1. Now we're going to discuss the first problem. If Shkalim, the first parsha that we read in Adar, falls out on Parshas Tetzava, that seems good. So you read the whole Parshas Tetzava. Where is the Parsha Shkalim? The beginning of Kisisa. So it looks like you blew a stop sign. You read Tetzava, you go into Kisisa. Again, I'm not showing that I'm reading Shkalim. What do we do? So that's what we're discussing here. Simple stuff. If the Parsha of Shkalim falls out in Tetzava, it's great words. Everything is it's there to confuse you. I have even a simpler chart, I think. Here it is. Yeah, Parshas Tetzava, Parshas Kisisa, Parshas Vayakel. In Parshas Kisisa, it includes, the Torah reading includes the Shkalim. So what do? So over here he says, you read from Atat Tetzava all the way to Kisisa. And then, V'chad, 1 aliyah, the first aliyah, you read from Kisisa till V'asisa. In other words, the first aliyah. So you read Parshas Shkalim. Omar Abaya, top of Daf Amud Aleph. Ukmihu dekam ukmi hasam. People are going to think that you forgot. You forgot to stop. It doesn't show when you start opening up another chumash and you start rolling the Torah. Oh, we're reading something special for today. But if you just go into the next parsha, you go into Kisisa and read the next aliyah, it has no significance. Elam Abaya, Korushita Mevata Tetzava Ad Vasisa. Says Abaya, no, you read 6 aliyahs all the way through, and including the first aliyah of Kisisa, and then you repeat it. By you repeating it again, now I see, you're doing something special for Shkalim. Says the Gemara, inside, and another person gets the same aliyah again right over here. Mikisisa ad va'asisa, the first aliyah of Parshas Kisisa, which includes Shkalim. Meisvei. Okay. Says the Gemara, question. If Parshas Shkalim comes out right before Parshas Kisisa. So that's what we had before. Before or after Kisisa. What does it look like after? Same thing, but I already did it, so why not? Parshas Shkalim goes together with the Vayakel. So it's right after Kisisa. So what do? Says the Brisa. Let me see if I can make this a little lower. Yes. Good. Okay, because my place mark keeps on falling. It's too steep. So you read Parshas Shkolim, you read it twice, the same Shabbos. That's what the Gemara understands for this second. So that sounds like who? Like Abaye. Abaye just said, you read the same thing twice. According to Rabbi Yitzchak, doesn't fit in so well. Says the Gemara. This makes a lot of sense. You can read it twice. Great. But if Shkolim is over here, what are you reading twice? You're reading Kisisa the week before. And Vayakol, you're reading Parshas Shkolim. So why is that considered reading it? Oh, you don't see it on Zoom, sorry. Why is this considered reading it twice? You read it over here 1 week, in Kisisa, in red. Following you read Vayakol and a little bit of Shkolim. That's not doubling it up. So this case, where you read Vayakol, doesn't fit so well into the Bryce according to you, Abaye. You, Abaye, say that double means twice in the same week. It's not twice in the same week. It's one in Kisisa, one in Vayakol. It's not double. So what does double mean? You must say, according to this Bryce, that double means one after another. You just read it twice. That's also doubling up. People are not going to realize you're reading Shkolim for something special. You read it last week, you're reading this week. So too, when it comes to this, right over here, it doesn't mean that you read it twice. There you go, you blow the stop sign, you read it twice. It means week after week. Okay, that's how he's going to explain. Says the Gemara, new case. By the way, until then, the Maseches, basically we're going to discussing different things of laning. Almost to the end. Achanami, says the Gemara, Chaliyos b'kisisa atzma. So that's this case. You have to read Shkolim in the parsha of Kisisa. Now you're up a creek. Now it's a big problem. Because the beginning of the parsha starts Shkolim. So how are you going to stick in Shkolim? It's part of the parsha of Refuah. So what do? Machlokes. Omer Yitzchak Napcha, Karushita min va'asisa ad vayakol. Maybe we should go back to this chart. You read from here till Vayakol. Okay. 6. So Rabbi Yitzchak Nafcha says like this. You see this piece over here? This is Shkolim. We completely ignore it. We skip it. We start laning, not from the beginning of Kisisa, but from Sheni. The whole first portion of Kisisa is skipped. You get 6 aliyahs all the way to the Vayakol. And then we go backwards, we retract to Shkolim over here. We do a little, the first aliyah at the end of laning. What's the problem with that? The problem is that it looks like you missed something, that you forgot to lane the first part, and you're just saying it after laning because you forgot it. It's lovely. I mean, to me, these words are confusing. But it's so simple. It means the first aliyah. But instead of saying the first aliyah, the Gemara calls it mikisisa ad va'asisa because it rhymes, so it's gishmak. Okay, so you read from Sheni till the end of the parsha, then you retract, you roll up the Sefer Torah backwards, and you read the first one, and that's how you know that you read the parsha of Shkolim, special for Shkolim. People are going to say, oh, he made a mistake. He forgot to read the first aliyah. So he's going backwards. Don't worry, Victor, it's not such a problem. I just saw you wrote something on the screen. It pops up on my screen. What am I going to do? I see what you guys are chatting now for the first time. Hi, Ben Schwartz. Not that you chatted. You're paying attention. Zog the Gemara. Okay. Elo Amar Abaye, what do you do? Karushita ad veyakel. Says Abaye, no. You read from the beginning of Kisisa all the way to the end, to veyakel. V'chatana v'karim Kisisa ad v'sisa. And then you go back to the beginning of the parasha, you read the first part of the parasha again, second time. Hey, we learned exactly like Abaye. If Parsha Shkolim falls out smack in Kisisa, you read it twice. Great. Nusugya. If Rosh Chodesh Adar falls out in the middle of the week, Magdimim l'Shabbos Sha'avra. You read Parsha Shkolim before Rosh Chodesh. Itmar Rosh Chodesh Adar Shechal Liyos B'Erev Shabbos. What if Rosh Chodesh Adar falls out on a Friday? When do you read Shkolim? Did you miss the opportunity and you cannot read it tomorrow on Shabbos? It's too late. And you must read it beforehand. Or no, you read it tomorrow. What's the difference? Rav Amar Magdimin, and this is how we're going to go with. Rav says you read Shkolim before Adar. In other words, you're reading it the week before in Shvat. Have a little bit of a chart, half a chart here. Here's Rosh Chodesh on Friday. When do you read Parsha Shkolim? The following day or a week beforehand? This is not Adar. This is Tavis. Here's Purim. What's the problem? Remember, there's a change place. You get change. These guys open up their tables. When do they do it? You need to give 2 weeks advance notice to remind people to bring their coins to Yerushalayim to give a machzah shekel. So, if I read Shkolim right over here, and Purim is by the Gerager right over here, look, we have a full week over here, and only 5 days over here. We don't have 2 full weeks. That's the problem. I need to give these guys 2 full weeks so they come with their change and everything. They have clients. They're not just going to open up a table for no reason. You need to give them 2 weeks. Shmuly Amar Miyachrim. No, not a problem. Omalach soif soif chameis v'mali shabsa mikla v'shuchonos l'nafki ad chad b'shabo. When do you want to open up the table? Over here? You can't open up a table on Erev Shabbos. Rabbi say Mashiach doesn't come on Erev Shabbos. Aliyah Novi doesn't come on Erev Shabbos. People are busy, the Gemara says. So you're going to start opening up a table on Erev Shabbos. If it rains on Erev Shabbos, you just learned in Tainus. No good. People are busy. So he's not opening up a table. Maybe, I don't want to say his name, Tomer will open up a table to give out Gemaras in the Merkaz, in Ramat Bet Shemesh. But that's about it, for Torah. But not money. So anyway, you got to push it off to over here, to Sunday. So now if I read Shkolim over here, I remind people to bring the money, I have 2 full weeks. 1, 2 full weeks. Tanan, we learned in our Mishnah. If Rosh Chodesh falls out in the middle of the week, Magdim l'sha'avar, you have to, what does it mean? In our Mishnah. So, let me see if I have the thing here. Okay. Rosh Chodesh falls out in the middle of the week, Magdim l'sha'avar, you do Shkolim the week before. Umafsikin l'Shabbos acheres, and you stop for 1 week. My lav afilu b'erev Shabbos. What does it mean in the middle of the week? The middle of the week includes all day. Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. It says in the middle of the week. So it means even Erev Shabbos, and you go backwards. You go like Rav. You read it over here. Magdimim. Not over here. Not Machrim. It's a good raya. Says Gemara. My love, loy, b'techa Shabbos dafka. It doesn't mean Friday, it means the rest. Toshma, Ezi, Shabbos, Rishona. What's the first Shabbos they could possibly read? The 4 parashiyos. Kol shechal Rosh Chodesh Adar Leis B'Toicha, as long as Rosh Chodesh Adar falls out in the middle of it, Va'afilu B'Erev Shabbos, even if it's Friday. My love, Afilu B'Erev Shabbos Dumya D'Toicha. So when it says Erev Shabbos, let's see, I didn't print the whole thing here. We'll use this later. Fine. My love, Afilu B'Erev Shabbos Dumya D'Toicha. Ma Toicha Magdimim. Shouldn't Friday be like the rest of the week? Ma Toicha Magdimim. Averev Shabbos Magdimim. Like Rav, and there'll be a question on Shmuel. Amar Shmuel, Ba. No, it's not B'Toicha. It's Ba. So Ba means Shabbos itself. And then it says a second later, but Erev Shabbos. So Ba means Shabbos itself. And Erev Shabbos, listen to this just for a second, Erev Shabbos will have the halacha of Shabbos itself. V'chein tana debei Shmuel, Ba. So Shmuel didn't just make up this word. Instead of B'soicha, it's Ba. Instead of meaning in middle of the week, it means on Shabbos itself. Devei Shmuel already said. Misargin, well, Devei Shmuel doesn't tell me that. Misargin Shabbosis. We learned that according to this man, Rabbi Yehuda Anasi. Who's Rabbi Yehuda Anasi? Rabbeinu HaKadosh, the one who wrote the Mishnayos. So finally, because usually we say Rabbi Yehuda Nasi'ah means his grandkid. Over it's Rabbi Yehuda Anasi, he himself. Misargin means you skip. So he holds that there's always a jump between Shkalim and Zachar. There's always a blank week in between. You do Shkalim, stop 1 week, it's on and off. Sirugin. Rav Shimon Elazar Eimer Misargin. Rav Shimon says no. Or Rav Shimon Elazar Emasani Eimer Misargin. Well, let me qualify that, says Rav Shimon. Bizman Shechal Liyos Be'erev Shabbos. So, in order, you must read Zachar. You have to read it before Purim. So when do I say that you don't skip? Bizman Shechal Liyos Be'erev Shabbos. So now you have to read Zachar right away. Bizman Shechal Liyos B'Toicha Shabbos. Magdim V'Korim Mishabbos Sha'avra. I need time, says Rashi. I need time for these tables to open and give them the proper amount of time. So Mela, I magdim, I read it earlier from the previous Shabbos. Even though that earlier Shabbos, Shkolim, comes out that I'm reading it in the month of Shvat and not in the month of Av. Vashniya Zachar, Idmar, Purim Shechalis Be'erev Shabbos, Rav Omar Megdim in Parshas Zachar. We're going to have a very, very exciting chart. But for that we have to turn the page. Who knows if we're going to get to turn the page today? 10 minutes. Okay. Idmar, Purim Shechal Liyos Be'erev Shabbos, Rav Omar Magdimim. Amud Beis is very, very easy. Just there's an interesting chart there, an interesting memory aid. That's not even in the Gemara, it's in Rashi, but we have to discuss it. But it's a very simple Amud. Idmar, Purim Shechal Liyos Be'erev Shabbos, Rav Omar Magdimim Parshas Zachar, Ushmuel Omar Me'achrim. If Purim falls out on Friday, when do you read Zachar? You hear the question? I don't know if I have a chart for this. Oh yeah, I do. Okay. Again, Purim falls out on a Friday. Do you read Zachar right after Purim or before Purim? Rav Amar Magdimim, you go earlier. Shmuel Amar Machar. Rav Amar Magdimim ki eichid aloi tikda masil zechira. So, in the Megillah it says, Zechira means you have to say Parshas Zachar. V'nasim means you have to actually do something. You have to make Purim. Asuda, Shalchmanis, all the things. Zecher for Mechias Amalek. So, but you need to do Zechira, Zachar, before Purim. That's why he says you have to do before Purim. Shmuel Amar Machrim, you say Parshas Zachar after Purim. Amar Lach, Kivin Dikimu Kafem, you have Yerushalayim, walled-in cities, Davdi B'Chamei started doing 15. So we'll do Parshas Zachar on Shabbos, and it's Purim on Shabbos. So all happen together. There's a place on earth that will be Yaita, and that's good for everybody. Tanan Bashniya Zachar. The second week you say Parshas Zachar. By the way, there was a guy that came to one of the Brisker Rabbanim and said, "I don't understand. There's one of my friends. He'd heard Parshas Zachar in 30 different shuls. So the Rav told him, whoa, what a minute, shugana. He could have been yaitz in 15 shuls. Why did he have to go to 30? Okay, Tnan, b'shniya zachar. V'ha, ki mikla reish yarcha b'Shabbos, mikla purim b'erev Shabbos. So, we learned in the Mishnah that the second week is Parsha Zachar. But that's the Gemara, ki mikla reish yarcha b'Shabbos. If Rosh Chodesh falls out on Shabbos, mikla purim b'erev Shabbos. 14 days later is Friday. Uktani b'shniya zachar. So what do you see? That if Purim falls out on a Friday, you read on the second week, you read Parsha Zachar. Not like Rav. Rav says you read it beforehand, and here you see it after. Ora papa, my shniya lafsaka. So for that, instead of you turning the page to the Chav Tes, let me just show you real quickly the Mishnah. It says Rosh Chodesh Adar gives you the first case, and then it says Chali is b'teicha Shabbos magdim l'shavar. You go backwards. Says Rav Papa, this b'shniya Zachar that you read Parsha Zachar in the second week doesn't mean the second week. It's going on this line over here, and it makes sense. Umafsikin l'Shabbos acheres. You make a break. There's a break. Bashniya, and after that break, you read Parsha Zachar. That's what it means. Shniya lavsaka. Tashma. Eze Shabbos shniya. Kol shechal purim. I wish I had more time here to explain it slower and better, but we have to read. Tashma. Eze Shabbos shniya. Kol shechal purim liyos b'seicha. What does it mean the second week? When Purim falls out in the middle of the week, vafilu b'erev Shabbos, even if Purim falls out on a Friday, and my love, erev Shabbos dumi the toicha, and Friday is like the rest of the week. Ma toicha magdimim. You take Parsha Zachar before that. After erev Shabbos magdimim. There's a raya like Rav that if Friday is Purim, you do Parsha Zachar the week before. No, Amar Shmuel ba. Same answer as you said before. Ba means on Shabbos. V'chein tana d'meir Shmuel ba. Chali is b'Shabbos atzmo. If Purim, Rabbi, so now we're switching gears for a second. If Purim falls out on Shabbos, Amar Avuna l'divrei hakol ei magdimim. Now, you have Purim and you have Zachar on the same day. Is that okay? Yes. What's the problem? The problem is niskarim v'nasim. Okay, it all happens simultaneously. On Shabbos, I read Parsha Zachar, and then I go home and I do the Suda, I do Shalach Manas. I'm not going to give Matanas Levyanim today, and I'm not going to read the Megillah either. But I'm going to be Yaitza, the Asiyah. So the Re'akol Magdimim, according to Rav Huna, you don't have to do Parsha Zachar a week before. It's good to do it on Purim itself. Nachman Omar Daini Machloikis, it's still Machloikis. Rav is going to say you do it the week before. Is Manami, Omar Mchia Bar Abba, Omar Rebbe Abba, listen to this. Omar Rav. In the name of Rav himself. Purim Shechal Liyos b'Shabbos. If Purim falls out on Shabbos, Magdim B'Koyer b'Shabbos over Zachar. We have a source that Rav himself said. I don't have to bring a riot to Rav. Rav himself said, you read Parsha Zachar the week before Purim. Bashlish is paraduma, brand new sugi Rabbi. If you were sleeping and spacing out, here it goes. Nuah. Third week, the third parsha is the parsha paraduma. We explained to remind Klal Yisrael to become tar. You're bringing the carbon pesach suit. Tar abaron ezi shabbos shlishis. When does that happen? Kol shesmuch lepurim achareya. When Purim is immediately before it. Itmar Reb Chama Bar Chanina Omar. We learn from Reb Chama. Shabbos hasmuch leRosh Chodesh Nisan. No. Nothing to do with Purim. Has everything to do with Pesach, with Rosh Chodesh Nisan. It's directly before the week of Rosh Chodesh Nisan. V'loy pligi, hodi ikla Rosh Chodesh Nisan b'Shabbos, hodi ikla be'emtza Shabbos. I have a quick chart here. If Rosh Chodesh Nisan falls out on a Shabbos, then Para happens right over here. But if Rosh Chodesh Nisan is the middle of the week, so then, because what happens is, Para needs to be right before Chodesh. So if Para has to be right before Chodesh, so what do I do on Rosh Chodesh, Shabbos Rosh Chodesh? I'm going to read Parshas Chodesh of Nisan right over here. And if I'm reading it right over here, then I do Para directly before that, the week before. However, if Rosh Chodesh is not on Shabbos, it's over here, I cannot read Parshas Chodesh. I'm going to read Parshas Chodesh beforehand, over here. And therefore, Parshas Para is 1 week before that, which is right next to Purim, right after Purim. Zog the Gemara. Sorry, I lost my place here. Oh. Baravias. What do I read in the fourth week? HaChodesh hazeh lochem. Tanrabanan. Rosh Chodesh Hadash Chalis b'Shabbos. If Rosh Chodesh Adar falls out on the Shabbos, Karin Kisisa, you have to read Parsha Shkalim. Umaftirim b'Yada, as we mentioned yesterday, it also talks about Makseh Shekel. After Vezi Shabbos. Now, by the way, this is the entire Bryce in its entirety. We had pieces of it before, broken up. Now it's in one shot. So we're just repeating what we learned. Tanrabanan again. Rosh Chodesh Hadash Chalis b'Shabbos. If Rosh Chodesh falls out on Shabbos, Karin Kisisa, you read Shkalim Umaftirim b'Yada. Vezi Shabbos Rishayna. Kol shechal Rosh Chodesh Adar leis b'Saycha. As long as Rosh Chodesh Adar falls in that week. Vafilu b'erev Shabbos, and then we explained according to Shmuly means on Shabbos itself. Okay. Bashniya Zachar. Second parsha that we read is Zachar. Umaftirim pakati. Vezi Shabbos Shniya. What does it mean? The second parsha. Kol shechal Purim leis b'Saycha. When Purim falls out in that week, the follow. Vafilu b'erev Shabbos. Bashlishis. And the third parasha, Paraduma. It's about the water of Paraduma. Immediately following Purim. The fourth parasha is the parasha Chodesh. Now we turn to Daf Amud Beis. Vezi Shabbos Revius. Which one is it? Koil Shechal Rosh Chodesh Nisan Liyos Besoicha Vafilu Be'erev Shabbos. The fourth week is anything that Rosh Chodesh Nisan is going to be within that week. So you read the Parsha Chodesh before that week. Sponsored by Moshe Horn and Woody Wyman as a zechus for Morty Moskowitz, and in honor of Rebelli for all that he does is another. Now let me show you real quickly. We have a big Rashi here and a lot of art scroll pictures. Zachen. It's very, very simple, Rabbi say very simple. First of all, chart number 1. Purim. This is a very rudimentary chart. I get it. It was last minute stuff. Little fake COVID. These are the days of the week that Purim could fall out on. On the even days, Beis, Daled, Vav, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and on Shabbos. Now, in our days, it never falls out on Shabbos because we have a calendar. Okay. The Gemara, Rashi has a siman here, and it's in, I guess it's in French. Zetubu dad vidu. Okay. Zetubu dad vivu. Vivu. Givaldik. What does it mean? That if Purim falls out on Shabbos, these are the days of the week that Purim falls out. The blue is the week of the month that we're not going to read anything. 0. Okay? So, let me show you inside over here. There's 4 charts. Very, 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 very simple. Zatu. Zadu. Zatu means if Rosh Chodesh falls out on a Shabbos, then the blank, the X, the no parsha. You see, Shkalim, Zachar, Para, Chodesh. Over here, there's nothing going on. What day of the week of the month is it? Tesvav. Zatu. 2. That's the why. Because over here, right away, we have to do Shkalim. Rosh Chodesh, we have to do Shkalim. Immediately afterwards, we have to do Parsha Zachar before Purim. Purim is on Yudalet. And we said that if Parshas Chodesh is over here, Parshas Par comes right before it. So we have a blank on over here. Great. Next. I'm not exactly sure how people are going to remember this, but my Chavrusa remembers it. Zadubu dad uviu. Boo! Ha! Scary. If Rosh Chodesh falls out on a Monday, boo, Beis, on a Monday, that means that we're not going to read anything that following Shabbos on Vav, boo, Vav. We're going to read Shekalim before, Zachar right before Purim, Para, Chodesh. Great. Next. If Rosh Chodesh falls out on a Wednesday, Daled, 4 days later, right over here, on a Wednesday, 4 days later, we don't read anything. Okay, self-explanatory. Shkolin comes before, Zachor comes before Purim, Parshas Para, Chodesh before Rosh Chodesh. Great. The only interesting one is this one right over here. It's if Rosh Chodesh falls out on a Friday, Vu, we have 2 days that we don't read. You see 2 X's on. Oh, sorry. Yeah. This should have been Beis, not Daled. Okay, mistake. You don't read on Beis, and you don't read on Yud Vav. You know what Yud Vav is in this mnemonic? Yud Vav is what we call Tezayin. Yud plus Vav is 16. We have Tes Vav. The following number is Yud Vav. We call it Tezayin. They call it Yud Vav. So you don't read on Tes Vav, on Yud Vav, and you don't read on Daled. Why? Very interesting. Over here, Rosh Chodesh falls out on Shabbos. And I forgot to mention something very important. All these charts are all based on the Gemaras we learned. Everything that we learned is just put into one little thing. That's why it's so beautiful. We're reading, but it comes down to Lamaisa. And we just finished learning that if Rosh Chodesh Nisan falls out on the Shabbos, then Parshas Parah has to be immediately before it. And therefore, forget this Purim over here. Purim is somewhere else. Oh no, it isn't. And therefore, we don't read. Over here we have a blank, and over here we have a blank. We have 2 blanks. Let's see if we could read a few lines here. That's Rashi. Next. It's not in the Gemara now. B'chamishis chayzrin l'kesidron. We actually had this Gemara yesterday, so we're familiar with this. The 5th week, we go back to normal. What does normal mean? Let's say the Parshas chayzer. He goes back to reading the Parshas. In other words, according to Rabbi Ami, as we explained yesterday, the 4 Parshas, when you read Shkolim, when you read Chodesh, when you read Para, you're reading 6 aliyahs, 7 aliyahs, all in that Parshas Para. You don't do Parshas Shavua. So for 4 weeks, you're not doing Parshas Shavua. Week number 5, you go back to normal, you read Parshas Shavua. But Rabbi Yirmiyah says no, like what we do today. Let's say the Haftarah is Chayzer. He doesn't go back to the Haftarah. He's reading normal Parshas. He just doesn't. He goes back to normal Haftarahs. It makes a lot of sense like Rabbi. It's not. Lakom Afsikin. You go, you stop for everything. That's the Mishnah. You stop if Rosh Chodesh falls out on a weekday, on a Monday. You don't read Monday laning, you read Rosh Chodesh laning. Now I understand there's a parsha in the weekday. You don't read the normal Parsha Shavua, you read a special one. What does it mean you go back to the normal Haftarahs? There's no Haftarah on a Tainus. You're right. When I could go back to Haftarahs on Shabbos, I go back to Haftarahs. When I could go back to laning, weekday laning, I go back to. That's what I meant. Let's just read 2 more lines. According to Rabbi Yirmiyah, Rashi explains. There's a question on Rabbi Yirmiyah. Why do I have to stop reading the regular laning? Read, open up the Siddur, wherever we're holding, you go to the back of the Siddur, we're holding in Parshas Bereshis, you read Bereshis. Let's say, I'm just giving you an example, not that it happens. If you have a tinus, let's say in Parshas Bereshis, it doesn't happen, you'll read the special laning at Mincha time. Why do you have to not lane the morning, regular weekday laning? Says the Gemara, I'll tell you why. Because there's no laning at all in the morning. People get together in the town square to see what Avera is causing this big problem. And how does it work? We check out what the bad stuff, the Avera is, and from midday, from noon to the evening, Riva the Yoima, I split that in half. Mid-afternoon, Karim after it, I lane, and Haftarah, Vayichal Moshe. And the other quarter, we daven. Shenemar, Vayikru b'sevet Hashem Elokeim Revius Hayoim, or Revius Mizvadim Mishtachim. It says you daven. And how do I know what part of the day it is? Maybe you daven a quarter of the day, but in the morning. Says the Gemara, D'chsiv Ve'ilai Yosfu Kol Chored B'divrei Elokei Yisrael Al Mal HaGoyla. V'ani Hashem Mishoyim Mad LeMinchas Erev. I go until Mincha, and then after Mincha, Uchsiv U'B'Minchas Erev. Then that's when I daven. Rabbi Sai, Have a wonderful day.